Welcome back to It Starts With You podcast. I am so excited for our guest today, Lisa Raebel. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. I'm excited too. This is going to be fun.
Oh my gosh, we have so many things we can talk about. So, I want to introduce you to our guest, Lisa. Lisa is the founder, author, speaker, and chief storyteller of Rebel Girl Marketing, where she has developed her proprietary Rebel mindset, which I love that Rebel mindset approach to help businesses stay in business by utilizing focused, uncompromising marketing strategies. With over 30 years of experience as a successful marketing executive and leading sales professional, Lisa cuts through the noise and breaks down marketing to what makes sense for her clients, creating strategies that are simple, relatable to their target audience, and result in double-digit sales growth year after year. And don't we all want that? I love that.
Yes.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. I think we have right before we hit record, we're already having all these ideas of what we could talk about. Lisa, I would just love if you would start with what even got you into, obviously you have a background and experience in this, but what got you into starting Rebel Girl Marketing?
Well, working for corporate America for so many years. So I spent a little over 12 years in corporate sales and then took a little bit of time off, raised some kids. And then when I went back, I went into the marketing aspect because that's what I love. That's my passion. And so I started working with friends who had small businesses, and it was just so great to see them go like have those aha moments, like, oh, that makes more sense, right?
Hmm.
And so when I was a marketing director in corporate America as well, what happened was I was talking to some clients and they said, if I only had you for like 6 months, I think I could really make a difference in how I can grow my business. When you hear that a couple of times, you're like,
Hmm.
sounds like seems like an interesting business plan. So I met with some entrepreneur friends that were very successful and I said, here's my idea. It's kind of silly, right? I should probably just go get a job. And they're like, no. And two of them actually hired me. And so this gig mentality of like helping a lot of small businesses because they can't afford marketing directors. They're not big enough for that. And so like if I can give my marketing director and sales experience to these small businesses to help them survive and then thrive, I mean, that is my passion. That's my mission in life is the more small businesses we can save and the more small, entrepreneurs we can help like launch into a bigger business. That makes me so happy. That's my joy.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's obviously as a small business owner, marketing, just this idea, you hear marketing, and even sometimes just hearing the word feels overwhelming because
It is.
it can mean so many different things. So, can you help simplify it for me and for everybody listening on what do we mean when we're talking about marketing?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I'm actually writing my second book and doing a speaking event in October at a small business conference, and it's about. I finally broke the code into like how to explain marketing in a
Yes.
way that everybody understands. So everybody listening to this podcast or watching the podcast has been grocery shopping at some point in their life. We're going to make that assumption.
Yes, I think
And
that's a good
so,
assumption.
yeah. And so the two first things you ask yourself is like, what's on the menu and who am I feeding?
Mm.
And so as you're creating it, you look at your week and you're like, okay, I'm going to be at a networking event, so I have to have something for the kiddos to eat, and so my husband doesn't burn down the house, something easy
Yeah.
for them to cook, right? Or it could be like, we're going to the neighbors for dinner, and I'm bringing an appetizer, or little Jimmy has a soccer game, and I'm the snack mom, right? It's all of
Hmm.
those things you ask yourself, but then you ask yourself, who am I feeding? So if you're the snack mom, you know you can't bring any nuts. So like you have to have
Hmm.
something that everybody else can have, right? And then you ask yourself the question is like, what do they want? And so the same thing goes for your marketing. If you literally just ask yourself two questions, like what's on the menu, what's going on in your business, and understand that concept of, oh, I have a workshop that I'm launching in 3 weeks that I want new prospects to come to, or I'm launching a new product that I want existing customers to buy. It's like if you understand what's on the menu, like what's happening in your business and why you want to do marketing in the first place, that's question one. Question two then is, who am I feeding? Who needs to
Hmm.
digest this information? If you're hiring a project manager, you're probably not, it's probably going to be a different audience you're doing marketing to than the workshop you're trying to get new prospects to. So if you literally just ask yourself those two questions, just like you do a grocery list every week, it helps you feed your business because marketing, you think of it this way, marketing is nutrition for your business. you're not going to do like one big, huge guerrilla marketing and then do nothing, for a year. It's small pieces consistently that help build the brand and help feed the brand awareness and help feed the business. So comparing it to that nutritional aspect of feeding your business and then the grocery list, it's an easy way to understand like that's what you need to do. And you just those two questions, there's a lot of questions that go with that, but
Mhm.
if you just start with those two questions, it really helps you understand that marketing is simply constantly telling people what's going on with your business and making sure the right people are hearing it.
I love that analogy and thinking I absolutely love that. It's like marketing is feeding your business.
Yeah.
Marketing is feeding your business. So when you think of it, so I feel it's like when we talk about marketing, it's like, oh, I need to market my business. But then also
Mm-hmm.
then they need to market their menu, like what their offerings are. So what do you think where do you think people go wrong? Like, where are they making the mistake then when they're thinking about their marketing?
They don't think about what they want the person to do with the marketing. Like they put out like I'm having a big sale, but they don't tell them. It's so funny. Like why? Like, do I want them to show up at my store? Do I have an e-commerce site? What is the call to action or the CTA in marketing terms? If you hear CTA, it's call to action. What are you asking them to do? And that goes back to like, why do I need marketing? What's on the menu? What am I asking my clients to do? Am I asking them to just be aware that this is going on? Am I asking them to tell other people? Once you know what you're asking them to do with the information,
Mhm.
that is, I've seen so many advertisements like, and here's a big one, an event, but they don't tell them where or when it is. Not even how much or all that stuff. I just saw two this week of like, hey, we're having this event, and I'm looking at the Facebook post, and it's like it doesn't tell me where it is or even
Where
like what day and time it is. It's just like, hey, come do this. Okay, but you haven't told me where or when. So it's like literally like looking at what does the audience need to know?
Mhm.
The people that you're feeding, what do they need to know to be able to digest the information and then like do what you're asking them to do. So that
Mhm.
it's just so funny having an event but not telling them where or when.
And I'm
So
always curious, is that like a
yeah,
strategy? Like, do they think like, oh, I want people to ask and inquire and engage with me? But I think majority of times people just get like frustrated by that. Like,
yeah, yeah,
I'm not going to ask if you don't tell me when it is. I'm just going to keep scrolling past.
yeah, exactly. It's just like saying, hey, I've got, it's like a picture of, I don't know, like a picture of food, but you're not telling you what it is and why you're doing
Mhm.
it. It's like, and then people, you have 8.25 seconds to engage somebody.
Mhm.
And less than that when it comes to art and social media, like the
Mhm.
whole scroll thing, right? You literally have seconds and milliseconds to grab their attention. So
Mhm.
if you don't give them as 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 much information as like not a ton of content per se, but like the most necessary pieces of information immediately, they're just gonna keep scrolling. So
Like that
yeah.
eye-catching thing
Yeah, it needs to
right
be
off the bat.
visually attractive, but it needs to have the enough information that they go, oh, that makes sense, and then they look into more.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. The other mistake that I see people is like telling too much information. Like I don't need to know everything. Just tell me enough to grab my interest, and then let me click on whatever you're trying to get me to click on, and then I can look for more information. So those are the
Mhm.
two: either not enough information or too much information. Definitely.
Finding that sweet spot.
Yeah.
What I know when we were talking before, you talked about this like rebel mindset. So marketing as like this mindset. Tell us more about what do you mean by that?
So know, like, trust, like KNOW. Know, like, trust is really used a lot in marketing. And
Mhm.
it's about knowing that you exist. That's part of marketing. Liking the content that you put out there. That's part of marketing. And then from like to trust, that's sales. So that know, like, trust aspect of things is like know and like is marketing. And then from like to trust is sales. And so what people get stuck on, they don't mind doing the know and the like, they like the marketing part of it if they do it, but they don't like converting to sales. So the rebel mindset that I have is that if you think of your marketing simply as storytelling, I'm just telling you what I do and how I help people.
Mhm.
And then selling just becomes telling that story to other people. And so stop thinking of it as like selling. Start
Mhm.
thinking of it as storytelling. And as you're telling your story, people get interested. They really, really get interested and they say, oh, that's really interesting. Tell me more. Or they say, hey, that sounds like something I need. Or it says, they're going to that Rolodex in their head, right? Or the
Mhm.
CRM in their head, because I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
But they're going and say, I don't need this, but I know somebody who does.
Hmm.
So if you just go out and tell your story passionately and with a lot of conviction of what you do, then people, they stay interested, and it's just knowing your story.
And I love that too because I hear that all the time from people. Like, I don't want to be, salesy. It feels,
Yeah.
I don't want to go and sell people. It feels uncomfortable. And
Yep.
if you realize and, you are telling your story, and the thing, if you go in with that mindset of like, you have something that somebody potentially needs help with, and if you don't talk about it, how are they
Right.
going to know? And so when you come to storytelling, because obviously this is a big piece that it in general is for people, whether they're, working in corporate, whether they own business, like using storytelling and stories as a way to communicate is key. What I
Yep.
often find though kind of goes back to what you were saying before is people have a hard time putting that together in a concise and clear way. They either give way too much information or not enough. So, what are some things
Yeah.
that you do to help your clients when it comes to getting better at storytelling for their marketing?
Yeah, when it's the too much, I call it the show up and the throw up. It's the person who you say, "So what do you do?" And like 2 minutes later, they're still talking, and their
Yes.
resume and their pets' names and where they went on vacation, the whole 9 yards. And I can only say that because I was totally guilty of that, in my sales career
Mhm.
as a long time ago. But yeah, and so what happens is that it goes down to the why, and people, when I talk to entrepreneurs, like, oh, I don't know my story. Like, what is my story? And then I just have them talk about, well, why did you start the business? And then I keep asking them why. Well, why is that important to you? Well, why are you targeting that market? Or why is accounting so important to you? What's the story behind that? How did you get into it? And I ask them a lot of questions, just like you're asking me. But what
Mhm.
happens is that we get to the question that they stop, they swallow hard, and it gets emotional. Once you get to that emotional, why are you doing this? That's your story, because people buy on emotion, and people will remember stories if they have an emotional connection to it. Now, I don't say you have to get personal and down into your, the dark skeletons in your closet,
Mhm.
but like, why marketing? Why mindset coach? Why are you an accountant? Why are you a business coach? And when I ask those questions of like really getting down to the core aspect of like, why did I pick this? People don't realize it, and their subconscious, they're like I have a business coach, and he's like, as a client, and he goes, it's because if I had me when I was 15 and I was just starting out with my businesses, I'd be in a much different position than I am right now financially.
Mhm.
Raising a family in this kind of economy, right? Or I asked the financial planner, and she said, I saw my family struggle when they lost a parent because there was no plan.
Mhm.
Or it came down to the photographer who, fourth generation photographer, and she said, I have seen our I've seen our company create history. Like, there are photographs that we took as photographers, 4 generations ago, that are literally in museums. And I want to capture the moments, and I want to capture the history for families. And it comes down to that almost uncomfortable feeling of why you're doing it in the first place. And I
Mhm.
think that's where the story lies. And
Mhm.
so keep asking yourself why until it kind of hurts a little bit, and then build your
Mhm.
story from there.
I love that. And it makes me think of obviously so Simon Sinek, his Start With Why book that he
Oh
wrote.
yeah.
Actually use his a piece of his TED Talk in one of my leadership programs that I do. And while you were talking, one of the phrases that he says a lot is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Yeah, the golden circle. You and I are, I love
Yeah.
that. I use it all the time too. It's actually watching that video is part of the homework with my client, my strategy clients. Watch this video, and then this is, yeah. Actually, the book is like literally right there.
I
Um,
love it. It's so
yeah,
important.
it is. And what's interesting is that I'm a little older than Simon, and so like I have been approaching the marketing stuff. He puts it so eloquently,
Mhm.
and so I love his stuff. Not just because I agree with him, but because he explains it in a way that is just brilliant, because it's easy to understand. And that whole golden circle of like, it's not how you do it or what you do, but why you do it
Mhm.
is what people buy, and that's that emotional connection. And
Mhm.
so If anybody hasn't watched it, go to YouTube, please, and just Google Simon Sinek Golden Circle. I promise you, the 5 minute version is fine, but you will not regret it. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
It's so funny when I show that in my emerging leaders program because first of all, his like OG video from the TED Talk is old. So his examples that he's using around like Apple, in the computer and like the examples, I
Yep.
always have to laugh and tell them, okay, this is from, I don't remember what year it was from, but it's like the message is still the same. And
Yes.
I kind of want to talk about that piece as well because obviously, so we're talking a lot about like the marketing piece for small businesses, and also though from a personal branding perspective, like the reason that I use that example in my leadership program is when we're talking about personal branding and when you know your
Mhm.
why and when you get really good at storytelling, you can use this in corporate as well or in your personal life. Like it all ties into who you are as a person and what drives you. So when you think of kind of people's why in their personal branding, what are some of the things that why it would benefit somebody to dig into this as well, even if they maybe don't have a small business right now?
Right. I've done this for job seekers, organizations that have job seekers in it. And
Mhm.
the power of your pitch is one of my most popular requested speaking topics that I do for audiences. And so, what it comes down to that is that it goes down to the like we get into the why part is part of that is that training in that course that I do with
Mhm.
people, but it comes down to the fact that a pitch is literally a conversation starter. And we're going to stop calling it a sales pitch because we don't sell anything in 30 seconds, right? It's not going to, we're going to stop calling it an elevator pitch because most people are like looking at their phones anyway
Right.
on the elevator. So we're just going to call it a power pitch. And all you're trying to do is start a conversation. That's it. And
Mhm.
so, what do you need to do to get that other person to say, really, tell me more? That's
Mhm.
all you're trying to do. So, if you're a job seeker and it's your personal brand, and let's say that you're, I don't know, I'm working with bookkeepers right now, two
Mhm.
bookkeepers. So, like with your bookkeeping, why is it, why is that important? And just, we don't say, hey, I'm a bookkeeper. We say things like, we make sure the IRS doesn't knock on your door.
Mm.
Or I have a friend who's a leadership and life coach, and she says, I unconstipate the mind so you can be you. And
Oh
so,
my
like,
gosh,
we
I
don't,
love that.
we don't say what we do. We
Yeah.
say something that that gets them to go, okay, tell what does that mean? You know what I mean? And so, like, you don't have to say what you're doing to be
Mhm.
able to like start a great conversation. And for me, I always say I'm the Nanny McPhee of marketing. And they're like, what does that mean? And I say,
Mhm.
I help my clients until they need me and then I'm gone, because it saves that. Like when you say consultant, they're like, oh, she's going to be a lot of money and she's going to stick around forever. And all I'm going to do is get a playbook and she's going to walk away, which is not
Mhm.
the case at all. I'm there until you need me. When then once you got it, then like one of the first things
Mhm.
I say to a prospect is eventually you're going to want to fire me because
Yeah.
you're going to get it. You're going to have it. You're going to be able to take it and run with it. But they always think it's a really funny thing for me to say. So, anyway.
I love that. I love the creativity and it also brings in a personality a bit, right? Because I think
Yeah.
and when we talk about like networking events, and again, I'm working with clients sometimes who work with some, executives or leaders in companies who, when they have to go to certain events or like networking events in their space, they get really nervous introducing themselves. There's lots of layers to it. Sometimes it's imposter syndrome about who they're at the table with, all of that. But
Yep.
they start to like word vomit out all of these things, and so we work on how can you do it in a way that's confident? And then obviously also entrepreneurs and business owners, like you need to be networking at these events to get visibility. And so often when we go to those, it's the same thing over and over again. I'm a financial advisor, I'm an insurance agent, or
Yep.
I'm a coach. And it's like, okay, so I love that if somebody comes in with this method that you're teaching where you go like, wait, what did they just say?
Yeah, I did the training for a young entrepreneur group, a lot of startup young people, and what I loved about it was that this one young gentleman, he started a handyman business, and I do this in my Power of Your Pitch presentation as well. But
Mm,
you know, I when they do the process, like it's a process, like there's like a 5 step process, and then you come out with a power pitch.
mhm,
And what happened was I have them come up and I do their old pitch and then their new pitch. And I love this one because it is just the perfect like show up and throw up that I was talking about. Because
mhm,
I, like, because he says my old pitch was something like, Hi, I'm Nate. I'm a handyman. I clean gutters. Sometimes I fix the gutters, and I've done some shingle work, but I'm not really a roofer. And like I don't like landscaping. I'm pretty good at electrical. Plumbing, I really like to do plumbing, but like I've done some painting, and like he just was going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so after we did the 5 step process, he comes up and he says, "Hi, I'm Nate. I'm a handyman. I do everything on your home to-do list you hate to do."
Oh,
And I was
yes.
like, mic drop, right? I was just so
That would
proud of
get
him
people like
because,
ears perked up.
yes, exactly. And it's just so funny because it's the perfect example of it doesn't matter what you do, you can create a pitch that get people to go, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just to start a conversation. That's it. That's all
Mm-hmm.
your pitch really needs to do.
I love that. So those of you who are listening, like if depending upon where you're at, really thinking about just how can you get a little bit shorter, sweeter, concise, but also attention getting when you have, quote unquote, the mic in front of you, the moment in front of you to introduce yourself and what you do. And I think just what I love you're saying is like giving permission for people to not be so stuffy. Like just have fun with it and
Yeah.
be clear but be authentic.
Yeah. And I'm not sure when we stopped having fun. And I mean, you start your business because it brings you joy. So
Mhm.
why not be joyful in what you do and what you talk about? I mean, there's another person that I was helping in a different industry event that I was talking to, and she said, I don't have a why. And of course, I brought her up in front of the audience because that's just me. Um, but we talked about it, and she got down to the fact that even though she has a hair salon, what she loves, like her favorite thing, is to watch the women leave
Mhm.
because she said they have a different cadence. They have a different, they're standing taller, they're like more confident, they
Mhm.
feel more themselves than they when they walked in her salon. And I love the fact that even though it's a hair salon, what she's really selling is confidence and a
Mhm.
personal brand. And she
Yeah.
never saw her business that way, and now that's her marketing, is that's her marketing. it's
Mhm.
just it's just so clear, and women can relate to that.
Yeah, and you get into those feelings.
Yep.
So you mentioned that you are writing a new book, or you have a new book. Can you
I am.
share any insights with us?
Well, so the first book is called The Rebel Girl's Guide to Marketing, and
Rebel
it
Girl's
talks,
Guide to Marketing. Amazing.
yeah, Stop Committing Random Acts of Marketing is the subtitle on
Oh
there.
my gosh.
Because what I in the first there's 10 chapters, and you can see it's not very big, but
Mhm.
it's an easy read because it's very conversational, but there's homework
Mm.
because I make you apply everything you're learning and hear about your marketing to your own business.
Okay.
Not It's not some esoteric, theoretical aspect of marketing. It's
Mhm.
like, how does this apply to your business specifically? So the second book is taking that grocery shopping comparison that I did, and like that's literally the second book, and it
Ooh.
teaches you how to write weekly marketing plans instead of saying like, what's your monthly plan? Monthly, yearly. It's just like, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow sometimes,
Yeah.
right? So how do I break it down in much smaller bite-sized pieces? And I have a whole bunch of puns on the whole eating and grocery shopping and nutrition in there. It's actually a little bit silly, but it helps you understand that marketing is consistent, and it's every week. It's And so
Mhm.
like if you just think about it on a weekly basis, then it's a lot easier to be able to do that. Now, don't get me wrong, on a yearly basis, have a budget.
Mhm.
I'm not saying don't play, don't think about your marketing in a year slot. I mean, in your budget, you should understand that. But
Mhm.
if you try to even do one quarter at a time, you just, like you said, it feels so overwhelming.
It does.
And so
Yeah.
let's stop making marketing feel overwhelming and do it on a weekly basis. But then I teach you that there's, again, I for some reason I like the number 5, but there's 5 things to
Mhm.
create your weekly marketing strategy, and it's a worksheet, and you just fill out the worksheet. And once you have the worksheet, then it's kind of like, okay, now I know what I want to do, I know what I want to say, I know who I'm talking to,
Mhm.
and then it's just about implementation.
I love that. So the first book, Rebel Girl's Guide to Marketing, we'll also drop a link in the show notes for people to kind
Oh,
of go right to it. But I love that
thanks.
it's the tangible, right? Because as business owners, as entrepreneurs, whether it's full-time thing, side hustle, wherever we're at, we're busy. We've got
Yeah.
we can't just have theory. like theoretically. So I love that yours is like these are things that you can actually do and start implementing. And then in the next book that's going to be coming out, giving more of that like bite size. And I love that with the weekly thing too, because while having the plan is so important, I do think sometimes we're just like, okay, what can I focus on this week? So having kind of
Yeah.
those bite-sized plans for people.
Yeah, and it starts, the first question is, why are we doing this? Like, what is the point? And then I have this whole, there's a, it's kind of funny. I have this whole like section of the book that compares apples to social media.
Mm.
And because like there's a million varieties of apples out there, right?
Yes.
And there's a million varieties of social media out there. So it's like understanding what you want to use the social media for.
Hmm.
It's like, that's, you pick the right apple. Do you want
Mm.
a sweet, crispy one to munch on your way to work? Then you got a Honeycrisp, right? But then you have like, if you want like a nice tart pie, then you have the grand.
Hmm.
It's just, I do this whole food analogy comparing to marketing, which sounds so weird, but it's relatable. And I think that's what we're missing sometimes in business books is how do I make it understand? How do I make it that I've done this a million times, and if I can just relate it to my marketing, now I understand how easy it can be,
Hmm.
because I'm just trying to make it easier for people to actually get it done.
Right. Yeah.
And that's how businesses grow and thrive, and that's how you get double digit growth, is that it's the consistency and the right
Hmm.
message to the right people at the right time.
Hmm. That was actually a word I jotted
Literally,
down
that's
while you were
it.
talking, like that relatable. I love that it is relatable and you're simplifying marketing so it doesn't feel so scary.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, so many things. So if somebody was listening right now and they're like, "Okay, okay, Lisa, I know I need to do marketing. I know that I should make this a priority." Like what would be like the first thing that you would tell them to do if they really haven't spent much time at all focusing on their marketing?
So, well, by the book, but with the book also comes the Rebel Girls Guide to Marketing podcast that you can find on any podcast, and it's a limited time because it literally just goes through the book. So it's
Mm.
like me walking you through the book in and of itself. Obviously,
Oh,
listen to
that's
Julie's
awesome.
podcast more, but like that's but if you want to combine the two, that would be great. But I think the first thing I would do is just say, what am I trying to do with my marketing, and start with the question why. Why am I
Hmm.
doing this? What's the point? And
Hmm.
so it's really about understanding what you want the marketing to do for you. I so it's about the list. And literally that's what the next book is about making that list, because if you go to the grocery store without a list, what happens? Not
If it's on
not
my
healthy
cart, it's
things.
just all the
Right,
things.
all the things, whatever I'm craving that day, and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So instead, it's like that's the same thing, is that like the marketing strategy list is like your grocery list. Like it's
Hmm.
intentional. You face intentionality and you ask yourself those things. So it's all about understanding that concept of like why you're doing it in the first place. That's the first
Hmm.
thing you can do. But what the book does, and what the thing I love about the book the most, is that it breaks it down to not only why do you need marketing, but then it's like, what are you really selling? Bringing the emotional to your products and services. And then it's, who is your audience? And then where do they hang out? And then what are you going to say? And so it breaks it down into the process of like really understanding like the foundations of marketing.
Hmm.
And that's what I want you to do, is I want you to stop just throwing crap out there. Like stop
Yeah.
committing random acts of marketing and
Oh,
start
I
being
love that.
intentional and strategic.
Can you create a book of your like Lisa isms?
It's kind of funny because actually the random acts of marketing actually came from a client, and I'm like, I am stealing that for
I
my book,
love
and I
that.
actually give him credit in the book for the title, because I'm like, because I'm all about giving other people credit. It's not, but
Yeah.
the rebel mindset aspect of that selling is just telling a story to others. That is all 100% me. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's funny because I do that. I'm like, oh, that's good. I'm going to write that down and I'll
Yep.
use it. But I always give people credit.
Yeah, well, that's where we
Because
get
one of
our
my
ideas,
yeah
right? Somebody sees something in you and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, that's right.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, and it's actually in the book too, is David Beebe, and he says, content marketing is like a first date. If all you do is talk about yourself, there won't be a second one.
Yes.
And
Oh, that's
it's
so good.
and it's so simple that you're like, yeah, and if you just keep that in mind. So there's a whole bunch of that kind of stuff in there that is just super simple, applicable, relatable, and you just kind of go, yeah. I have so many people who have said to me, your book finally made me understand what the hell marketing. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to swear
You're
what
good.
marketing is in the
We're
first place. You
okay.
can
We
bleep
we
me out.
allow some of those on here. My
Anyway,
audience
yeah.
doesn't get offended by those, I don't think. I love
That's
it.
what the
Well,
bleep
and
is for.
that's what I love is it is just you people tell you you need to do marketing, you need to do this, and it's just like it feels so overwhelming. So I absolutely love that you broke that down for us and got made it more simple. I love the analogies because that's what people relate to. It made
Hmm.
it feel more like, oh, this is something that I am excited to do versus something I feel like I have to do. So we'll make sure
Right.
that we drop the link. Make sure you check out Lisa's book. And Lisa, how can people stay connected and follow you? So first of all, they know when the next book is coming out and that they can just stay in your world.
So LinkedIn is a really great way to do it. Lisa Raebel, and Rebel Girl Marketing has a LinkedIn too. Facebook is good, but LinkedIn is really where I put most of my stuff, especially my speaking events and
Hmm.
things that I'm going to be doing. So that's a good way to do that. And then just, if you want to talk to me, just Lisa at rebelgirlmarketing.com is a great way for just to connect to me personally and just say, hey, let's have a conversation. So, and then there's
Amazing.
always rebelgirlmarketing.com, the website. But
Hmm.
I, like most marketing people, need to update my website.
Right?
It's so funny because all of my marketing friends are like, oh, my website's the worst, but all my clients look great. It's a trend somehow in the marketing world. But
I
yeah,
feel like it's not just marketing. So I help you. Obviously, I help people with speaking as well, and in my speaker academy, and I'm helping people, grow their brand through speaking. And I'll be like, hey, you really need to work on your own branding, on your LinkedIn, on your website, but just don't check out my website right now because my page needs to get updated because I'm busy helping you with your pages. So yes, it's a
the
thing. So
cobbler's it's the cobbler's son, right?
yeah,
Like the cobbler's son is the one walking around with shoes holes in their shoes,
yes.
something like
I
that.
love it. Well, LinkedIn's such a great place too because I feel like that's a great way to build connection with people because they can get a feel for you too and see what you're doing. So make sure that you stay connected with Lisa. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing those tips on marketing. I know
Thank
it's
you.
going to be so helpful. I was jotting down, as usual, so many notes of like, oh gosh, Julie, you should consider this and you should think about this. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me on. I'm honored. Thank you so much for asking.
Thank you. Everyone have a great day.